They thought the tanker was just hauling crude oil through international waters, standard shipping traffic in the Strait of Hormuz at 2:30 in the morning. But when the sonar operator on the USS Carney picked up that mechanical hum vibrating through the hull plating, everything changed. What happened next turned a routine patrol into a three-dimensional nightmare that almost sank a 9,000-ton destroyer. The boarding team that stormed the Al-Sadir found something that shouldn't exist: dozens of pressurized steel cylinders magnetically clamped below the waterline, each one designed to hunt and kill surface vessels. The moment those pods released from the hull and started tracking the Carney's acoustic signature, this became a fight for survival in the most contested waters on Earth. To understand why this matters, you need to know what the Strait of Hormuz actually controls. 30% of all seaborne petroleum on the planet flows through this 33-kilometer choke point. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has built their entire war doctrine around shutting it down, and they just tested a strategy that could cripple the global economy in 72 hours. They can't match American firepower, so they don't try. Instead, they flood the zone with cheap, expendable platforms designed to overwhelm defensive systems through pure volume. The math is brutal and simple. Force the United States to fire a $2 million missile at a $50,000 drone 50 times in a row, and you win the economic war even if you lose every tactical engagement. The Al-Sadir was the perfect Trojan horse, sitting legally untouchable in international shipping lanes until it revealed its true purpose. The timing was calculated to maximize chaos and minimize American response options. But the underwater attack was just the opening move. 50 Iranian fast attack craft screamed out from the coastal haze, fiberglass hulls moving at 50 miles per hour in swarm formation. The USS Carney's 5-inch gun began firing 70-pound shells every 3 seconds, turning boats into clouds of debris, but the swarm was using the massive tanker as cover. Meanwhile, an A-10 Thunderbolt entered the airspace as bait, drawing Iranian coastal defenses into revealing their exact locations and operating frequencies. Every radar that locked onto that Warhog was painting a target on itself. The S-300 battery at Bandar Abbas took the bait and provided a digital roadmap of Iranian air defenses directly to the carrier strike group. When 2 Iranian F-14 Tomcats launched to intercept what they thought was an easy kill, they had no idea that 2 F-35 stealth fighters had been holding a silent orbit 4 miles above them for 41 minutes. The lead Tomcat fired a 1,000-pound Phoenix missile moving at 3,000 miles per hour. 12 seconds to impact, the F-35 pilots activated their jamming systems and turned the Iranian radar into a hallucination machine. The Phoenix lost its lock and tumbled harmlessly into the Gulf. Before the Iranian pilot could process what happened, an American missile turned his wingman into a fireball that spiraled burning into the water. Remember those details about overwhelming defensive systems through volume? The Iranians were just getting started. The tanker's deck plate slid back to reveal Shahed drone launchers, the same weapons terrorizing Ukraine. But the Carney's gunners had the geometry figured out now. A proximity-fused shell detonated directly over the launch rails, shredding carbon fiber wings before the drones could even take off. That's when the Iranians activated their scorched earth protocol. 6 explosive-laden boats began suicide runs at the destroyer's midsection. The ship became a wall of lead as gunners fired until their barrels glowed red. 5 boats disintegrated under the barrage, but the 6th closed to within 100 yards before the Phalanx system took over. 75 tungsten rounds per second created a chainsaw sound that sailors will never forget. The explosion shattered the bridge windows and showered the deck in burning fiberglass, but the Carney survived. The Iranian coast played its final card with 3 Ghadir cruise missiles designed to sink capital ships. These weren't drones or small boats. These were ship killers flying low to avoid radar detection. The Carney was out of long-range missiles and had to rely entirely on close-in defenses. The 3rd missile performed a pop-up maneuver, climbing high before diving straight at the bridge. The Phalanx tracked it through the entire arc, vibrations so intense they rattled every tooth on the ship. The explosion happened 100 yards above the hull, a fireball that blistered paint on the superstructure, but the destroyer was still standing. Now step back and understand what really happened here. This was a comprehensive examination by both sides. The Iranians tested American response times, electronic warfare capabilities, and decision-making under pressure in a high-traffic commercial zone. They recorded every frequency, every tactical choice, every vulnerability, but the Americans recorded them too. The intelligence gathered from that A-10 and those F-35s provided a complete electronic map of Iranian coastal defenses that will feed targeting algorithms for years. The engagement revealed a fundamental shift in modern naval warfare. The Iranians are weaponizing civilian infrastructure, turning commercial vessels into launch platforms and using neutral shipping traffic as shields. This complicates rules of engagement in ways that extend far beyond tactical considerations. When you cannot distinguish between a civilian tanker and a weapons platform until it opens fire from inside your defensive perimeter, traditional naval doctrine becomes obsolete. Consider the margins involved in this fight. If the Iranian swarm had launched 60 seconds earlier while the Carney sonar was still processing underwater threats, the outcome changes completely. If one suicide boat had covered another 50 yards before the Phalanx engaged, the explosion occurs inside the ship's defensive envelope. If that cruise missile had delayed its pop-up maneuver by 3 seconds, the geometry becomes impossible for interception. The Americans won because they maintained situational awareness across 3 domains simultaneously while processing threats faster than their opponents could generate them. But here's what the boarding team discovered when they cracked open those parasite pods with robotic cutters, not explosives, not drone components. High-resolution digital maps containing GPS coordinates and structural weak points of every major desalination plant in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. This entire engagement was reconnaissance for a humanitarian disaster targeting the water supply for millions of people. The invisible pipeline was actually a countdown to mass casualties on a scale that would have redefined regional stability. The shadow war in the Strait of Hormuz isn't ending with this engagement, it's evolving. The Iranians prove they can embed military assets inside civilian infrastructure and coordinate multi-domain attacks with sophisticated timing. The Americans prove they can see through deception and maintain defensive superiority when overwhelmed by volume. Both sides collected intelligence that will reshape how the next confrontation unfolds because there will be a next confrontation. That A-10 Warthog survived an S-300 radar lock, not because of stealth or speed, but because of manual reversion capability. When every electronic system fails, that pilot can fly the aircraft using steel cables and pulleys like a tractor with wings. Sometimes the simplest technology becomes the most reliable when everything sophisticated breaks down. And in waters where 30% of global petroleum flows through a choke point controlled by rational enemies with asymmetric strategies, reliability matters more than any other capability you can name.